Current gold prices provide outstanding leverage to startup junior producers. Hi, George Sanders, President, Goldcliff Resource Corporation. Welcome to our ongoing series of peer company interviews. Today we're learning about Lincoln Gold Mining, Inc., symbol LMG on the TSX Venture Exchange. The web address is lincolnmining.com. Now, Lincoln is a bit of a departure from some of the other peer companies that we have been interviewing because they have advanced well beyond the exploration phase and even beyond the development phase and are now in the permitting, mine planning, and construction financing stages of 2 open pit heap leach targets in Nevada. These peer company interviews are designed to showcase and highlight the talents and experience of the professionals in our junior exploration space. And as such, they're not investment recommendations. I'm not a registered investment advisor. Goldcliff is not compensated for these videos, but we do need to disclose that Goldcliff is a former partner of Lincoln in one of their projects, and as such we are a substantial shareholder of the company. Moreover, my friend who I will interview here shortly, Paul Saxton, the CEO of Lincoln, is a longtime member of the board of directors of Goldcliff. So we do have that conflict. However, we have disclosed that. So with that in mind, I would like to introduce my friend and colleague, Paul Saxton. Paul, thanks for doing this with us, and appreciate you taking the time. Paul is a mining engineer, and Paul has spent most of his professional career in the junior space and has been responsible as a senior executive or CEO overseeing the construction of several mines in the Southwest US. So Paul, why don't you just tell us about a couple of the mines that you and your team have brought into production?
Sure, George. Thanks very much for having me on your show. I appreciate that very much because we've got a lot to talk about, but we're limited in our time. But we feel very comfortable talking about what we've got because we know it's a winner. They are winners because we have 2 projects that we've identified so far, and we think there's going to be more because we set up the company to be in Nevada. It's probably the best place in the world to mine these days. People are interested in mining in the United States and mining gold especially, and we're there. We're there now, moving ahead with our first project, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But my background, after spending a number of years after I graduated with Cominco, now Tech Corporation, and learning some of the ins and outs of the mining industry, I moved on to start working with a smaller company, some of my own, some of the others that are not my own, were not my own, but I was associated with them. One of the things that we have done is certainly the first one that I was associated with was one out of called the Sterling Mine in just outside of Nevada, outside of Las Vegas, Nevada, outside of Beatty, Nevada. And that one was open pit heap leach, and I guess that's where my first love for open pit heap leaching started. And that's a long time ago, but it was very successful. And from there, we've gone on to other projects that I think have been quite successful. And I think that these 2 that I'm going to talk about a little bit are going to be just as successful.
And you were intimately involved in the original Castle Mountain mine, which has now been restarted by Equinox. Mm-hmm. And you were also active in the Cargo Muchacho.
Yes, that one. Yes, there were, and the Cargo Muchacho and the American Girl, American Boy, just outside of Yuma, Arizona. We did that one as well. And yes, George, I did get involved with I was hired on to put into production, the lead person to put into production the Viceroy operation in Southern California, known as Castle Mountain. And that one was a very successful operation, and very proud of that one. I might mention too that I have done a couple of projects in Canada. Number one is that we developed and built and operated the furthest north open pit heap leach in the world. I think it is anyway, just north of Dawson City in the Yukon. And you might say open pit heap leaching in 50 below zero, but the way we designed it, it worked just fine. And we were very proud of that one. And the other one is in southern British Columbia, which was not an open pit heap leach, but what's called the Nickel Plate Mine, outside of Penticton.
And of course, Goldcliff's Panorama Ridge Project is tied right on to that.
Absolutely,
old mine.
and it's a great area to be.
Yeah.
It's a great area to be.
And Paul, in some of your past operations, you worked with Joe Sawyer.
Yes.
Who's now your partner in the two projects in Nevada.
Yes.
And on which projects did you come across Joe?
Joe and I first met at the American Girl, American Boy, Cargo Muchacho outside of Yuma, and Joe and I were working for the Lundin family and with a company called Eastmac Gold Mines. And I was charged at that time with getting those projects up and running and moving, and Joe came along, and I really liked how he operated, and he and I worked on that for, I guess, a couple of years until I left to go join the Castle Mountain project, and Joe went his way as well, doing other things.
So I think one of the things about your company is that as you focus on actually bringing something into production yourself, your team has the skill sets having done this in the past.
Yes.
Which is a little different from companies run by explorationists who, when they get to the feasibility or construction stage, they really don't have the depth of experience or skill sets, and your team has that.
Yes. I'll just add on about Joe too. Joe is not only has he got the experience in operating and building, but he's also spent a bunch of years with the Nevada State Environmental Group for reclamation in Nevada. So he knows not only
he knows all the
permitting
permitting
people, he knows
people.
the permitting people as well. And that's really important.
Excellent. Now, when Goldcliff first was partners with you on the Pine Grove project, that was the only project in the company, and you've since acquired the Bell Mountain project. Both of these are modest projects, but you and I have discussed in the past how very well they fit into a junior platform, maybe because it's lower capex and quicker to production. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a good point, and that's where we stand right now in terms of getting the smaller one of the two going, the Bell Mountain going. We had it originally, and we let it go to Ron Nedolitsky's group, and Ron moved it forward and actually got the permits in place to move it forward. Then
Bell Mountain is permitted and ready to go into
Bell Mountain is 100% permitted to go to production. We have all the water, we have the power. We'll probably produce ourselves, but we know what we're going to do in that one. And we don't have anything else to do in terms of permitting except getting some air quality permits, and we can't do that until we get it up and running.
Okay, and so if you had the money in place, and we'll come back and talk about the capex, but if you had the money in place for Bell Mountain today and we're starting construction, what would be the time horizon until you're actually loading ore on the leach pad? How long would that take?
And Joe and I have talked about that a lot, and we've dealt with the people that have helped us put together the PEA on it, Welsh Hagen out of Reno, Nevada. We believe that we could do it in about 8 months.
Wow.
We believe we could be having the full operation up and running in 8 months. And because it's a heap leach, we would allow 2.5 months to get the first gold coming out.
Sure, because the solutions have to percolate and accumulate. Yeah.
It's not quite like a milling operation where you get gold almost instantaneously.
Right.
We have to.
Right. But construction financing in place and ready to go. The pads are percolating well inside of 12 months.
Absolutely.
And that's really one of the benefits of a less than mega-sized project. for a junior.
Yeah, and we've decided that. We've talked about that and decided this is the way we want to go because we want to do what we are calling the step process.
Yeah.
We're going to take the Bell Mountain and get it running very, very quickly, within a year, and then the cash flow that we'll be getting from that project, which is substantial, and though it's small, will be directed towards building our second project called the Pine Grove.
So I've noted that for projects of 50,000 ounces a year annual production or less, which a lot of people might say, well, you know, that's not, at these gold prices, that's really substantial cash flow.
Yes.
So first full 12 months of operating, so take the first couple months out of the picture, a 12-month run, what would your mine operating cash flow be at $3,000 an ounce?
We believe it'll be somewhere around $30 to $35 million.
Wow.
Yes, it's substantial for a smaller operation, but the neat thing about that is that and I can describe why it's like that. Our operating costs at our little Bell Mountain are probably around $1,200 per ounce operating costs. So if gold is trading right today, it's trading at $3,400. Take $1,200 off $3,400, we're down at $2,200 for operating profit. Multiply that.
And you guys have always built Chevys, not Cadillacs,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We pride ourselves in building good quality, but at lower cost.
Now, you talked earlier about, I use the term phased, but staged production.
Yes.
So I'm assuming it's in your business plan that once Bell Mountain is cash flowing, some of that excess capital can be diverted to the startup costs at Pine Grove. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, that is specifically the idea by doing that. And the capital cost at Bell Mountain is probably in the range of $25 million to build the property. And then we have to cover costs of bonding and a few other things like that in a short time to get things up and running for about 2.5 months. And that's going to cost us something. So we have to borrow a little bit more than $25 million to get it running. But the fact of the matter is, the cash flow that's coming from that, what I mentioned already, 30 to 35 million, pays us back within a year, if you want to look at it from that simple term. Okay, and then that money, the majority of that money will go towards the Pine Grove and getting it financed for production.
Excellent. So you have announced, and I know you're working on closing a working capital financing of equity. So when that financing is closed, your issued capital will be?
Will be in the range of around 30 million.
30 million shares.
32 million. Yeah.
So at a 20-cent share price, which it hasn't quite traded at, but at a 20-cent share price, that is a 6 million Canadian market cap for a 1 year out cash flow, 1.5 year out cash flow of 35 million US a year. Folks, that's pretty good leverage. That's one of the reasons why we remain as shareholders of this company. Paul, anything else that you might want to add to your story here?
I think I would. Our design or our plan with the company has always been an operating company. It's not been an exploration company and getting projects and selling. We want to be and we're getting close to that, an operating company right now. In addition to that, we've got 2 good projects, and we think the exploration potential, especially at the
Pine Grove.
At the Pine Grove, is substantial. We think that it has the potential to have 1 million ounces. Okay, and we're working on that. There's a lot of exploration to do to take us to that, but in fact, it's well within our risk of taking to say that this is where we're going to be.
And you know, knowing some of the details and where some of those targets are, many of them haven't even seen a drill hole yet.
Not even close.
It's just good geology and good surface exposure and sampling, and no drilling yet.
We've only probably explored 20% of the property, and we can do a whole lot more in that regard. And it's nice to remind people that, if they're interested, back in the 1880s and 1860s, 1880s, when this was in operation, Pine Grove, it produced 240,000, 250,000 ounces at a grade of 1.2 1.4 ounces a ton. Now, we're not looking for that right now, but what we're saying is that this little property, which is 7 square miles, not so little, but it's there, has the potential to be quite large.
Yeah. And given your business model, given your ability to, which the industry recognizes, your ability to actually build these things cheaply, I'll say on your behalf, I think in closing that, and I know because we share these conversations, you have excellent deal flow.
Yes.
You see a lot of post-exploration projects that somebody's showing to you, maybe for your participation, maybe for your opinion on how they can then be advanced to cash flow. And certainly we're in a metal price environment that makes these things pretty compelling.
I think that's a good way to put it, George. I think one of the things I want to say too is there's not one person that builds these things. There's a group that you bring together, and Joe and I work together well, and we think that we can get the people that we know that will come in and make this work.
Well,
really
thanks,
well.
and that's a great way to close,
Yeah.
because that's the purpose of these videos, is to, showcase the depth and strength of talent in the junior resource space.
Thank you.
As
George.
usual, buddy.
Yeah, thank you,
Thanks
sir.
a lot.
Thank you, sir.